Hey, it's Jessica Goose here with RealAgriculture.com, and joining me right now is Jason LeBlanc, who is a mixed operation farmer near Estevan. Jason, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Well, you're very welcome. It's an honor to be here today.
And it is quite the day, we'll say. I want to say more than 800 trucks at this rally, which is the Regina Rally Against the Carbon Tax. And you're one of the organizers. So explain to me, I guess, how did you get on board with this?
Okay, it all started kind of innocently. Back, I believe it was December, Prime Minister Trudeau had a round hall meeting in Regina. And everybody was always telling us that it was a rigged meeting and you could never get into them and stuff. And I decided to go. I jumped in a truck and I drove up, and I had a question that I wanted to pose about the carbon tax. And when I got there, I stood in line. I got entered into the building. It was easy. There was nothing to do. And walked in and sat down, and I did get asked. There was about 10 people got asked to pick questions in those town halls, and I got asked to ask one. So I stood up and I posed a question about carbon tax in agriculture, and in the end of it I asked the question, why is it important to put a carbon tax on the very resources that are trying to help pay for state equalization payments and so on. He took my question and turned it around and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the question is, how do we put a price on pollution?" And that was not my question.
No.
So it kind of irked me a little bit, and then we went home, and you can't answer again, or you can't ask, your mic is shut off, and went home, and I got asked to join a convoy to represent agriculture, and I give it some second thoughts about it, but you know what, I thought, geez, maybe I get a second chance. So we drove all the way to Ottawa, and that was a 5-day journey, and get down there and do our whole thing, and gave a speech on the hill. And again, we didn't get an answer. He refuses to be involved with the agricultural sector or to answer any questions, and I felt that we were just getting beat up. So we come home, end of story, and a couple guys approached me and said, "Jason, would you be interested if we put on a rally, because Scott Moe is the premier that's fighting the carbon tax and taking it to court, and we put on a rally and get some education out there." And thought about it again, and I said, yeah, I'd like to be a part of it. So I was one of the founding organizers, I guess. We all got together and had an original meeting where there were 6 of us sat down, and we started organizing this thing, and that's where we come to today.
And here we are today, exactly that. How taken back are you by the amount of support? I mean, I wouldn't say it's shocking, but it is definitely quite outstanding that this many people took time out of their day to be here.
I think what you're seeing today is that the ag sector has stepped up and realized that, hey, this is going to be hurtful. This is going to hit us. The oil and gas was ahead of us. The oil and gas sector, those guys, the coal sector, they were on top of this. They knew that this is not a good program coming towards us. And then they were also build the pipelines and so on. And so the ag guys stepped up big time, and we started doing a few tweets. People know who I am, and they said, "Jason, we were coming to support," and that was great. And it just kind of spread, and even as much as maybe on about Monday, Tuesday, we didn't really have more than 250 registered. And on Monday, it just started snowballing. And today, through the gate here, we know that there was about 860 trucks that made it through the gate. We also know that there was way more participants, because the majority of the trucks had 2 people in. And there was another parking lot for single vehicles or half tons, that type of thing. So we didn't get a count on that. So we don't know the total count, but we know that came through the gate.
Wow, 860 people. That's incredible. Or trucks, rather, right?
Yep.
Talk to me about your speech. You kind of opened up the rally here. What were the key points that you really wanted to get across, not only to, obviously, the Premier who was in attendance, but also to the farmers, to the supporters in the crowd?
The basic thing is we're getting into a carbon tax, and yes, the farmer's fuel is exempt, but only the farmer's fuel is exempt, not the fuel that takes to get the grain to market, to run the trains down the tracks, to get the ships across the ocean, to get our fertilizer brought in, to get any of our input bills paid or anything like that. There's a tax associated with everything that we touch on the farm, and that tax doesn't stop at $20 a ton. It goes up to 30, 40, 50, and there is no regulations anywhere that say where it's going to stop. So it scares me, and it put a fear in me that, potentially that tax could take us out of business. And that's why I wanted to come today and voice an opinion. And I got asked to give a speech, and I didn't want to anymore. And then eventually I did step up and said, okay, I'll do one more. But you know what? It's all I was really doing was representing the same sentiments, the same feelings that the majority of the farmers that are out there have.
Mm-hmm. You touched on it a little bit there. That bottom line. Exactly what you said there is that yes, the tax or the fuel is exempt from the tax, but it's really going to affect the farmer's bottom line because companies are going to be now charging you because they don't want to pay for it, right? What else do you feel right now is kind of the push for you guys to get that message to Ottawa? Is it going to be more rallies? Is it going to be letter writing? What do you feel that farmers really need to do to get their voices heard?
Well, writing a letter, that's just not going to cut it. That's like trying to push somebody with a rope. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't hurt to voice your opinions, but these types of things here, this is speaking loud. And we had another thing I want to point out, and I don't know if you noticed or not, but the amount of support from the city, from residents in the city, that was the biggest surprise for me. And to see the signs and the people holding support signs when we've come rolling through this morning, and numerous texts and calls that we support agriculture, we support the pipelines, because there's a lot of people in this town that realize without oil, without the energy sector around, the spin-off jobs are getting affected. And in my hometown of Estevan, we got three things. We got agriculture, we got coal, we got oil, and we're getting hit hard. Yeah. So we're seeing it all.
What else have you been hearing from people? Obviously, farmers talk when it comes to carbon tax, when it comes to this rally. What else have you been kind of hearing that people are frustrated with?
Basically, on the carbon tax, that we are ahead. We're 35 years ahead in continuous cropping. We've got technology, GPS technology. There's so many things that we're so far ahead of this potentially damaging carbon problem that they're coming up with. But if we're the only country that is doing this, an agricultural producing country, what's the benefits of it other than it puts us at a disadvantage for our trade, where our crops are all more expensive to grow? Mm-hmm. If the rest of the countries go out and we are roughly 1% of the world's problem, but we are getting taxed at an ever-increasing tax, that's the biggest sentiment, or the biggest thing that most farmers come and talk to me. They said they just can't believe that we're such a small issue on the global stage, but we're getting taxed.
Targeted.
Yeah, we're getting targeted big time by our own federal government.
Exactly. Lastly here, other rallies are planned for across Canada, I'm hearing. They're starting to pop up. I believe there's going to be one either next month or even by the end of April in Alberta. What would you say are the three things that you have learned to maybe help those organizers go ahead with planning a rally?
Number one thing is you talk to the police in the local town hall, in the local city that you're going to be holding the rally. And that is, they are great. I can't say enough about them. And the majority of the police officers in this part of the world, they come from a farm background. So they were great. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Number two, you need to get your dates planned, and get your dates planned where you know that things are going to work. Today we know that farmers aren't in the field. And the second thing we know of is that road bans are on, so the oil sector's not out there. So this was a great day to come. And number three, you got to have a message, and you stick to that message. Mm-hmm. And you don't waver off of that message. Today we had 4 talking points, and we stuck to it, and that's what makes it successful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Jason. I appreciate it.